Joe Biden has, among other things, Matt, had a bit to say today, suggesting that China wants to own America by 2035. Now, of course, this is the bloke who was more than happy for his son to go and get how many millions of dollars out of relationships with Chinese businesses. He's a bloke who championed them into the World Trade Organization, literally clinking glasses with them during state visits. Now he wants to pretend to be the get tough on China guy. Now, thankfully, he's not as bad as we thought he might be, but he's now openly talking about what, if Donald Trump had said, it'd be referred to as racist.
Well, I think Joe Biden said the unsaid thing out loud today. I reckon that was probably an accurate description of his conversations with Xi Jinping. And but what's the conclusion you should make from this? The conclusion surely is that we have to radically reorient our relationship with the Chinese Communist Party. We did tell ourselves a fairy tale for some time in the West, and I accept that I bought that fairy tale for some time, and that was that if we kept trading with China, they would liberalise, they would become freer, they'd become more like us and join the free world eventually. Well, that is not happening, clearly not happening, and now China is using the commanding heights that they've been able to scale in our economy to threaten, bully other nations, including ourselves. And what we should do, along with other like-minded countries in the West, in the region, is to extract ourselves from this relationship and find other relationships with countries that are willing to do business with us on a friendly and consistent basis, not what we've seen from China in the past 4 or 5 years. The sooner we do that, the better it'll be for our whole country. Yeah,
Stephen, we've got your connection back to parts unknown. Welcome back here to the real world. Bit of common sense. We knew that, that quality NBN connection that Malcolm Turnbull got for you, it's working all the time. Now, so Joe Biden says China wants to own us by 2035, exactly what Trump had been saying since he was running in 2015. What hope do you have that Biden doesn't just say things like that, but actually acknowledges that that's what they want to do, how they'll use their status as a developing nation in the WTO, despite the fact that, of course, they're landing things on Mars? America still is the biggest dog out there. How is Biden using that power to thwart their goal?
Look, I think that's a really good question, and it's important that he be held to his words. Where I take a lot of heart from what the President's doing is he's rebuilding our relationships across a whole range of countries. Trump was trashing South Korea, he was trashing Japan. We're now rebuilding what's known as the Quad, which Australia is part of. Trump was talking about pulling out of all the troops out of South Korea, wanted to charge them money.
But not the Japan bit. The Japan bit's not true.
Look, I think the Japanese were starting to open lines of communications with China under Trump because you couldn't trust what Trump was going to do. It's not what he said, because what his own cables, words from his own mouth said was, cut me a good deal on trade, and I'll look the other way on all these other things. Not a sustainable position. What we need is what's going on now, and the Morrison government deserves credit for it as well. We are rebuilding the alliances that we need, and we are beginning to step out and build some national resilience. We've seen important steps in one sector, the refinery sector. We haven't gone far enough yet, but we've made some good, important announcements and steps. So we are starting to rebuild the national infrastructure that we need, and we're starting to rebuild the international alliances and friendships that we need if we're going to be able to just say to China, pull your head in, behave as a good neighbour, behave as a good citizen. No one's trying to cut your lunch. Everyone's opened up and wanted to trade with you, but you've got to play your part in the relationship as well. This is not a fault of the Australian government.
It's pretty hard to see, though, where President Biden is trying to extract our dependence, our Western world and indeed the whole world's dependence on China right now. I don't disagree completely with Stephen that the Trump administration deserves some criticism, and yes, it is very important that we establish strong relationships with like-minded countries in our region, especially those geographically proximate to China. But at least Trump does deserve credit for probably having the guts the first time to call out China for their illegal behaviour, for the behaviour that they've conducted themselves on, say, since they joined the WTO, where they have refused to comply with any of the major obligations imposed under that agreement. They continue to subsidise their own industries, they don't accord with decisions made in the body, and they had to be called out. And I worry here Joe Biden has taken the pressure off a little bit in that regard. And, now we're sort of going back to taking claims into the WTO about China's barley tariffs. Well, that's not going to do anything. They're not going to listen to the WTO.